In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build a full stack application. So using the MERN Stack, it's going to be a blog app using MongoDB, Express, React, and Node with user authentication, where you can log into your account. You can create a new account as well as creating new articles. For example, to create a new article, so we will use this text editor here, okay, so which has a lot of functionalities as as a text editor, as a modern text editor. You can as well here upload images to the Cloudinary API. So get back the link, okay, and save it to the database. So I'll show you how to do this. You can as well edit an article, for example, after you create it, as well as read articles. So if you are looking for a project to add to your portfolio that might help you get a job, or you are just looking to hone your skills or take your skills to the next level, this is the right project for you. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'll show you that so the application has two parts, the front end and the back end. And the front end is of course React, and the back end is Node.js. So I'm going to shut down the original application here, and I'll show you how to do everything from scratch. Right now, I created here already a new folder with the front end just to save time, but this is just the React boilerplate, so there is nothing new. So you can just run the command npx or npm create React app, okay, to have it. I'm going to open it, so in my new terminal I'm going to open it with VS Code, just to show you that, okay, it's actually an empty React project. When I run npm start, okay, so you'll see it's just an empty. This is the React boilerplate. Okay, so as I said, you can just run the command create React app, okay, with your project name here, like frontend, like this, okay, to have it. Or you can just say npx if you don't have create React app. Actually should be create React app, like this. If you don't have create React app installed, you can just run npx create React app. Right now, I'll create now the backend. For the backend, it's just so mkdir, and you can say backend. Actually should not be there, so let me remove it. Should not be in the front end folder, so I'll cd back to the parent folder, and now I can just say mkdir backend. Okay, so what it does is just it's create an empty folder. Okay, so you can do it manually as well. You have, this is the parent folder, you have the front end, which is a React project, and you have the backend, which is an empty folder. So let's focus on creating our front end. So for the front end, okay, what we need to do is to have React Bootstrap installed. So I'm going to look at React Bootstrap here by just saying so React Bootstrap, like this, and we can get started. So I'll just grab this, right, install it here. Okay, and I need as well this Bootstrap min. So I'll go to my index.js, and from that point I'll just insert. I'll just paste it here. Okay, this is for the CSS. Right now, we need as well to have our routing. So let's look at React router. Okay, so let's Right, so this is where what you will have. Now we can just import it. So paste it here, and I'm going to have these imports here. So, and this is going to be the React Router DOM import. So I'll just paste it here in my app.js. Alright, and let me just remove this whole thing here because we won't need it. So I can just remove it, and inside of that we can copy this browser router like this. Okay, so what it gives me is, it gives me like a boilerplate I can start with. It gives me like routes. Okay, like the browser router is what's going to wrap your browser out. Okay, so everything that's within this can have access to your route. So, and you have the routes per se here. So let me just remove this. I'll need pages. So for the route, each route is going to be like a page like this. So it's going to be self-closing. And in my src, in my source folder, I'll create my pages. And here, so the first page is the home page, home.js. I'll have as well my login page, so login.js, and my sign up page. My sign up page here, signup.js. And for the home page, so we'll come back to it, but we can just say RFC, okay, to have our home page here. And we can have here, so the home, okay, the login page as well, so RFC, where we can have login. And to have these snippets, okay, for you can just look at the extensions here and search for ES7. This is going to give you, okay, this ES7 React, okay, Redux and GraphQL. So this is like the snippets you need to install. You can just install it, and from that point you can have access to snippets like RFC, okay, which means React functional component with an export. Exactly what it's doing here. So let's look at the sign up as well. So RFC, say sign up. Okay, I'm in the version control. So here, so RFCE, okay, the sign up. Now we are going to link this, okay, as routes. I mean. So the first route is going to be, instead of the home, we can say, instead of the app, we can say home, and we can say here another route, okay, for the path. The path is going to be, so login, okay. And from now we can focus on these two because the login is kind of the same as the sign up. So from that point, what we can do, okay, is to bring our navigation in. So here we can look at components. So for the components, we can look at our navigation, so navbar, okay, and just copy this first one and paste it so in our components. So components here, and I'll create a new one for navbar.js. Alright, like this. No, actually, so we can just say RFCE, and instead of having this div, so we'll have our navbar, and we need to have our imports. So I'll just say import here, okay, from React Bootstrap, and we need to import, so nav drop down, so navbar, okay, and let's now bring this nav to our app.js. So I'll bring it here, so within the browser router to have access to the routes, but outside the routes. So you can say here navbar, this one coming from our components, right, like this. So navbar, Okay, it should come from the components, not the navbar from React Bootstrap. And now let's see our React application. It says has already been declared. So instead of navbar, actually it should be navigation. Let me say navigation, and here as well change the name, so navigation and navigation. And now we can change the import by saying navigation, and let's say navigation, right, which is better. So navbar.js again. Okay, says components navbar.js. We don't have navbar though. So navigation, line 7. So container, let's say container. Navbar, let's see why it says navbar. If we remove this again, let's just restart, because it's saying something that we changed already. We have navbar right, so it was an error, right? So now let's see, let's put back the navbar here, navigation. So we have now, right, our navigation, and let's put, so like here, let's put it on the right side, the links, by just changing the class here. Instead of saying ME, you can say MS. And let's see, so now it's on the right side. So let's remove this link, okay, and we will install another package. This package, let's clear this, we'll call it npmi, so React Bootstrap, React Auto Bootstrap actually. Okay, and this is going to help us, for example, have access to the link, okay, to the navigation using Bootstrap. So here I'll need to import from React Router Bootstrap, and the package, the component, it's called link container. And this link container, so we can have it here. It's going to wrap a nav link or any other component you want to put as a link, okay, to any page. Let's remove this home, we don't need it, the href, right? And we are going to have here pointing to our home path. So here, let's do the same. I'll have another link container, but in this case to the login path, and we can have it as login. Let's add some class name. So class name equals btn primary, okay, to make it a button, and let's say text white to make it white. Now we have, right, our button, our login button, and if you click on it, so if you look at the login page, so where is the login page? In our pages, so login, okay, so it doesn't show the login because we forgot to have here the component to render, so we'll render the login, right? Okay, so make sure that you have it imported here like this, because it does it for me. Now if you click on home, you see that the home page is there, the login page as well is there. Let's build this login page. So I'm going to use here bootstrap components. So instead of returning this div, I return a container. Okay, and within the container I'll have a row like this, and now this row here, so we can say row, this row will have two columns, so the first one and the first column, okay, and another one, so which is called, so we'll have two columns. Okay, so the first one is md 7, and the second one is going to be md 5. Okay, we need to have these two columns. So on the left side we'll have like the content for our page, and on the right side we'll have the one image that we'll take. Okay, so it says call is not defined. Let's add it here. So now we have, okay, so for the left side what we need to have here is let's say div, and this div here we can just let's add, instead of a div, let's add a h1. So where we'll say login, and below this h1 we'll have our form. So let's look at here the components, the form component, and let's just take this one, copy it. Okay, we can paste it below this login like this. Okay, now we have this form. Let's not forget to add here, so the form and the button. Okay, and the login page should be okay, should be fine now. We remove this checkbox. Okay, and now on the right side, so that's it's where we'll have access. So let's add a class name, not a class but class name. Okay, and we can have it as login bg -- container. So this is for the image, and we'll have here login, okay, login button, and below it we'll have a div. Okay, and this will have a class name of py4, just to give it some padding, and within it we'll have a paragraph that's going to say don't have an account. Okay, we'll use the link to link it. So this is the link, we can use it in just a paragraph, but we cannot use the link container in a paragraph. So this link is coming from React DOM. It's the same as a link container, but just for non bootstrap components, in this case this paragraph. So this link is going to say sign up, and it's going to point to the sign up. Okay, so now we have it like this, and we can just say okay, it's fine, it should be fine. Now this background image here, so I can, for example, import my background image, or I can just choose it. So I have here an image folder. I can create here an image in my src, so just images. Okay, and these images here I can just look at my block images. Okay, so put there here in my images, but they are just coming from Unsplash, so you can look at unsplash.com to grab them. This logo here I created it from canva.com. Okay, so let's see, I have my login bg. So this is the one that I want to use for my login. So let's look at now. So in CSS we can create here a style.css, I mean a login.css. So I'll say login .css. This login.css, we need to import it here. So import login.css. Okay, now we have the login.css. We can look at the style here and just add it. So here as our BG container, and we can say background, right, image URL. So let me see, we can look at the images here, and I'll just choose my login BG, right? Say background size cover, and say background position center, and just give it a height of 90 view height. So this is for the background image, and I like to give our login form. So login form here, give it a class name of login -- form _ form, I mean, and the login form here will have a width of 90% and margin so that it doesn't span the full width. Okay, let me just rearrange this. Okay, so you see now we have, right, we have here the background image. Okay, it's a nice background image. Now let's align this form vertically. All right, so to do that, let's look at the login. Actually, this should be in the form. Yeah, like this. This one is better, and we can just align it vertically by adding some class here. So class name, say the flex, to make it flex, align item center. Okay, justify content center. Right, so it's fine. Okay, now this you can center it by just adding a class name of text center. So yeah, so now you have save it. So you have your login page now. And for the sign up page, the sign up page is going to be about the same. So let's just say here class name text center as well to center it. Okay, so when we sign up, when you click on sign up, we should have the same. But before that, let's make our form use the state. So I'm going to import here use state. Okay, and I can say here const email. So let's just use the const email, set email, and we'll use the state. Okay, make it empty string, and as well const password, set password. We'll use the state, and we'll make it a control form. It means the state. Okay, so React will be aware of the state and every time update our state depending on the value of the password. So here we say value equals password. Another one here, value equals email, and when we unchange it, so when we change it, it takes an event and it says, so set email to be target that value, like this. And the same here on change, so it takes an event and it sets the password to be e.target.value. So now you have this, okay, and when we submit the form, of course we need to do something. So here you can say on submit, so handle login, right, and we'll have here the function handle login. It takes an event, and we just say e.prevent default to avoid it from submitting. Okay, we can leave it like that from now. So we can just copy everything, okay, and do the same for the sign up page. So just copy everything, paste it here, and just say sign up. And here we can say sign up. We'll do some tweaks, but they are about the same. For example, the paragraph, it has to say already have an account, right? And we can say login here. Should go to the login page. And here we can say create account. Okay, like this, and we go to the sign up. Okay, so we need to build a route. For example, here we'll add the the route by saying path sign up is going to go to the sign up. So let's look at, yeah, so now we have the create account, and maybe change this background image. So we can have here another, just to separate things in case we want to style them separately. So sign up.css, and we'll have here in our sign up.js, instead of logging we say sign up. Okay, and the sign up.css, so we'll just take whatever was here and paste it here and say here sign up, right, bg container. In this case I'm going to choose another image, so sign up, yeah, we can just say iPhone sign up. Okay, and we can add this, okay, to our sign up page. So let's just close one. This one you can say sign up bg container, and now we have our login page and our sign up page ready. So from that point I think we can build our footer. So in our components we can create the footer.js, RFCE again, and the footer is going to be actually very simple. So we can say here, like in the example, okay, probably you are not seeing this, so I need to let me show you. So inspect, so this is the footer. Okay, so we need to have it like that. So it's just going to be, so copyright 2022 we can say, and for me like learn code. So it's that simple. And class name, so bg, what we can say, bg light, and we can add it to our footer. So app.js, so we can go to app.js here and below the routes we can add our footer. So let's look at the footer. So you can see the footer here. We need to give it some classes as well. So you can say py4, right, and text center. Right, and yeah, we can give it some margin as well. So mt for margin top 4. Okay, so yeah, so you can give it the margin you want here. All right, so now I think we can of course change this the logo. So what we'll do here, we go to our navigation. Instead of this React Bootstrap, we can just have an image, and this image is going to point to, right, so here I need to import logo from the images. So images, so it's called logo.png, I think. So yeah, this one, logo.png. The image is going to be, so the src will be the logo, and will be the class name, not the class name actually, we can just say style, inline style. So don't forget to add the double curly braces with a width of 60. All right, so let's zoom it like this. So now you see, right, you see the logo on the left side. Yeah, let's say here we can remove this bg light if you want. Okay, and this now, okay, what we need to have here is a link container. This link container is going to wrap our navbar brand, and it's going to point to the home page. So now if I click on this one, so we are on the home page. So log in again, you can sign up. Okay, you have the drop down. So this is for when we have a user, but yeah, from now it's fine, I think. So let's look at the home page. Okay, so we shut down the server, that's why. Anyways, so now the next thing is to set up our database. Okay, and for that we have here the backend. So for the backend, I'm going to open it with Atom. And yeah, so with Atom, there is nothing inside, so I can just open my terminal and say npm init right -y to initialize here package.json, and I need to install npm i express, right. I need to install cores, so bcrypt, and what else, so bcrypt cores, you can say json web token, you can say mongoose. Okay, so mongoose is for our database, and .env for our env file, and yeah, so let's submit. And while it's installing here, we can create a new file. So I think it's buggy. Okay, so here server.js, where we'll need to require so express, right, and as well require course. Okay, we need as well to require, so we can say here const app equals express. Okay, and yeah, so we have the app ready, and we can say here app that listen. So we listen to a port which is the 5000 port. Okay, and then it's going to have here a callback function where we just say console log server is running, right, and the server is running here, and we need to have so here the app that use so course. Okay, and we need as well to have app that use express that URL encoded, and we'll say here extended to true. Okay, the same for the JSON, so I can just say next line here app that use express.json. Okay, and now we will define here our connection. So I'll create here a file, call it connection.js, and in this connection.js, this is where you will require first Mongoose. Okay, and now we need to create an account, so if you haven't already, and with MongoDB Atlas. Okay, because we will need that. So if you go here to MongoDB Atlas, so this is where you need to sign up with Google, okay, or create your account. So I'm here in the MongoDB now, okay, dashboard, and what you need to do here, if like the first thing, if you have signed up, you need to create here a cluster. Okay, and after that you can create as many databases as you want with your cluster. So a cluster is just like where you can have, okay, your databases, and you can start with here creating a new user, so the base access, and create a new user. So let's remove this one. Okay, so add a new database user. Let's call it MERN YT, okay, user, and generate a password. So let's copy it. So I'm going to create an env file, .env, that where I'll store so db_user and db, so this is actually the password, so pw, and another one for the user, so db_user. So it's going to be right this one. So make sure you do this, and make sure as well you add the user by clicking this button, so it doesn't appear for you. Let me just show you. So you have this user, right? So just click on add user. So now it's adding this, okay, and at the same time you can look at the connect here. Click on connect your application. So copy this, and we'll head on to our connection where we'll say mongoose.connect. I'm going to use backticks because I'll insert variables here, the username and the password. So to have access to our .env file here, we need to require, right, so .env and .config. so that we can have access to the env. Now we just need to say for the username, so as a variable process that env.db underscore user, and for the password the same, so we can say so process that env.db underscore pw for password, and we change this database, so you can put whatever you want. So I can say MERN block YT. Right, and once we connect, I want to have a way to know that I'm connected by just having here a callback function, and I'll say console log, okay, connected to DB. Okay, so this I need to require it here in my server, so I can say require just the connection. Okay, let's see now. I forgot to tell you, you need to install here npm i node-mon save dev for the dev dependency, and create the comments, so for starting the server on dev or on production. So for dev is going to be node-mon, right, server.js, and on prod, that's where you need to have, so start here you can just say node server.js, right, okay, for dev and for a prod, so that we can say npm run dev. Okay, it says module not found. Did we install Express? I think we did. Oh, we didn't install them for some reason. npm I Express. Okay, npm I course, npm I so .env, okay, npm I JSON web token as for the token, and what else? So mongoose, forgot. So do we have mongoose here? So it wasn't installing all these dependencies, so need to do them one by one. npm I node-mon -- save dev. I don't know what happened. And of course npm I bcrypt for the password encryption. Bcrypt. Okay, now we can run here npm run dev, and it says, right, server is running and connected to our database. So let's see why it's complaining. Yeah, it should be extended actually. Yeah, extended, true. Okay, so now it's connected to our database, which is fine, which is good news. So now let's create our model for the user by just saying user.js, and this is going to be the model we need to when we create a user, right? So now it's creating the file. I just need to have, first of all, models and a file called user.js, and in this user model, that's where we need to have mongoose. So just say require mongoose. Next line, we need to require bcrypt, and as well require JSON token, and here we'll have user schema. So new, we say mongoose.schema, and we'll have here the email. So the email, right, because we need to have an email. Type is going to be string. We need to make it lowercase true. So these are the attributes that you can have for let's say the email, the password. So you can have specific rules for them. So for validation, let's make it unique to true. Let's make it required true, and if it's not present, we need to send a response by saying can't be blank, right? So the match now, this is like a regular expression. I'm going to use just a simple one. So is the string, a character, so one or more characters, s plus. So add here for the email again, one or more characters, so s plus. Okay, so here should be actually this, and again that. Okay, so one or more characters, s plus for .com, and we'll close our regular expression. And of course, if it doesn't match, we just say is invalid. Of course, you can choose like more stronger ones, okay, from Stack Overflow, but this one is fine for me. So here, index true means I want it like to be indexed, okay, for retrieval, for parser retrievals, because when we want to log in, we want to first look at the email in the database. So when I index it, it's faster for our database. Now we add another here, another attribute, which is the password. We say password is going to be type of string. So of course we'll make it required. So say can't be blank. Can't be blank for the password. And yeah, and the user, okay, needs tokens. So the tokens, I'll explain it later, but that's how we identify if the user is, like, for example, can create new articles, remove new articles, okay, or delete its own articles. So these are the tokens, and the articles here I'll just leave it from now an empty array. Okay, so this is the user, and we need, like, before we save the user, to do something, because we need to hash the password. So we'll say user schema that pre-save. So before we save, what do we need to do here? We need to run a function with an error first, and let's say, actually it's not like that, function with a next for the next middleware. And here we need to check for, of course, if the password is modified. So here we say const user to grab the user that's going to be saved. So it's like this. And if okay, the user password is not modified, so this modified is coming from MongoDB, you can check that the password is not modified, so we can return the next one. Okay, we don't do anything. For example, when you want to update the user's password, okay, or you want to create a password, you are modifying the user's password. So in this case, so here if user being created or updated. Okay, what do we do is we don't just store the user password. Okay, we are going to hash it, salt it before storing it. So we use bcrypt for that. .gen salt. So let's just take 10 times function error first and with the salt. So this is just coming from the bcrypt documentation. Okay, so if there is an error, we just say return next with error. No, next with the error. So otherwise we just say bcrypt that hash, we hash the user that password with a salt, okay, which is the 10 here, and another function that's going to run with the hash. Okay, now the hash, we want to return that hash, right, if there is no error. So if there is an error, we return the error to the next middleware. But if there is no error, you can just say user.password equals hash. Okay, and then we go to the next middleware like this. So this is how we save. Okay, we hash the user's password before doing anything. So now we can go back to our routes here. I'm going to create in my models here, so not my models, but in the root path another folder, and I'll call it routes. So not route, but it should be a folder, actually just routes, and I'll create a user route .js. This is like the route specific for the user. And here, okay, I actually forgot here to define the user. So here const user equals, in our user schema, still we need to define the user, okay, with the schema. So mongoose.model, we say user, and we define it with user schema, and we say module.exports equals user. So that's it. Now this user, we can import it in our user routes. Let's first require route, say something like that. So router express, okay, that router like this, to build our router for the user. And we can say const user equals require, we require from, so we are in the route, so outside the routes, and we say models and user, right, user.js. Okay, so this is requiring the user. Now we need to handle here user creation by saying router dot post. So actually it's not going to be like // so here you might see // but in our app.js, actually let's do it now so you understand. So here I'm going to say module.exports equals router, and back to our app. So it's here we will say const user routes. So we are going to require here /routes/ right user routes. So user routes. So this is what we need, and it says string is not defined. Probably we have a typo here. Alright, so that's it. Now this user routes, okay, Express is going to handle, so app.use, for example, all the requests that have users, okay, we will map them to the user routes like this. So now it's going to be users / something, and when we come back to the user routes, we can just have this /, but it's actually like this, right? So users like this. So when we have this, what we'll do is, this is the user creation, so we will have here an asynchronous function that's going to have a request and a response. And what do we do with this? We will just create now our user. So we'll grab the email and the password coming from our form. Remember, we build a form, and we say red.body, okay, coming from the request body. We'll say try catch because it's an asynchronous operation. We don't know if it's going to work or not. We want to make sure that we will catch the error. So try, what we'll do is we'll say const user equals, we'll await the user creation by saying await user that create, so email and password. Make sure that you have here an object inside, and if it works, so we need to generate a token for the user. So const, actually we don't need that, we can just say await as well. So the user, the new user that generate token, just say auth token. This is a function we need to create, but we need to create it here on our user model. Okay, so back to the user model, what we'll do, we will create here as like this pre-save. Okay, we attach it to the user. We can say here user schema as well, that methods, okay, that generate a token is going to be a function, so asynchronous function actually. So like this. So what do we do here? We will just grab the user that call this generate auth token by saying const user equals this, okay, and now the token is const token equals, we need to okay, so we have, let's just call it JWT to make it shorter. So we use JWT as JSON web token. We sign now. Signing is just a way to hash one part of the users to a very long string. So once the user wants to create a new article, he has to send back this this token that we sent it. So we know that it's the user. Okay, so we sign it with, so the user ID, user that underscore ID. So we make it a string, okay, and we need to sign it with just a string. It can be any string, but I can just say app secret like this. Okay, and I'll show you. So this is going to be a very long string, so you can say console log token, okay, just to show you what you'll have. So from that point, remember the user has an array of tokens, so this is, we'll put it here, okay, because we can have the user like connect in other devices, and we need to have as many tokens as devices, okay, so that's why we have an array. And so here we say user that tokens that concat, so we'll concat the new token in an object like this, okay, and we await user that save, and from that point we can just return the token. We can just return, actually we don't need to say return token. So this is how we generate the token for the user. And let's look at back to our user routes. Okay, so after we generate the token, what do we do? What do we need to do is to send the user. So res that status 200, and we send. Okay, let's just say 201 actually. 201 that send. And yeah, so if everything works well, but if there is an error, we can say here let msg, so like this. If the error in that code, I have seen that sometimes it sends, like if the user already exists, it sends a 11,000 code from like MongoDB, so we have to handle it. We say msj equals email already exists. Okay, else you can just say the error msj equals error. So should be actually error here. Message, the message coming from the error, if it's something else. So res that status, okay, 400, we send, so JSON msj. So that's how we handle the error. Let's now add another one. So for login user, by saying router.post. So what do we post? Login, and it's going to be an asynchronous operation, so with a request, a response. And what do we do here? So we still need to grab the email and the password. So email, password coming from request.body. Okay, and we do the same, so try catch, and let's remove this finally here. And what do we try? We try to log in the user, right, by saying const user equals, we await, so user find by credentials. So this we need to as well create it, so with the email and password, this method. And this method, we go back to the user. Okay, and here instead of being method, now it's a static because we are using it on the user class. So user schema that statics that find by credentials is going to be an asynchronous as well, but it needs to have email and password like this, right? Okay, and we need now to have const user equals await, okay, user that find one user by email. Remember here we put index true so that it's easier to find by email. And now if there is no user, of course it means the email is not okay in our database. We can say throw new error, and we say unable to log in. And if there is a match, so if there is a match, it means if we find the user, what do we do? So we await, okay, now to decode with bcrypt the password. So we say bcrypt that compare, so the password here coming from our form with the user's password is going to return true or false, right? If there is no match, it means the email is fine but the password is not fine. So we throw a new error. We can just say email or password, invalid email or password, right? So invalid email or password, we can have it here as well. We don't want to help like the user to let him know that the email or the email is not fine or the password is not fine. We just say invalid email or password. Okay, no need to go any further. So now if there is a match, so if there is a match, it means we found the user, right? So what do? We just return the user. So that's the statics here. So how do we do it? Now let's look at back to our user routes, where we will handle here the login. Let's see here, routes, user routes again. Right, so we await this to happen, and from that point, okay, we need as well, once you log in, you need to give you a token. So we say const, we just say await user that generate of token again. Okay, and then we say res.json, res.json, so user. Okay, so let's see now. And else, so which is the error, we just say res that status 400 that json with e that message. All right, so that's how we do it. Yeah, that's how we do it. So now we can test our app to see if it works, so if the login or the logout functionality work. So we can just look at the account creation here, and of course we need a way to handle the the request. I'm going to install, let me just install here Axios, so npm I Axios. Okay, and for the pages here, so we'll go to our pages. I think it should be here, sign up. So for the handle, it should be actually handle sign up here. Make sure you change that. So handle sign up and handle sign up. Okay, now we'll prevent the default and we'll just say import Axios from Axios from, and we say here Axios.post. Okay, so we HTTP localhost. So it's just a way to test, but we want to use actually Axios in this project. Okay, we'll use a Redux toolkit query, which is you will see that it's more efficient. So we'll send the email and the password, and once we get the response, so we say that then res, okay, you say console log res.data, and that catch have an error, we'll say console log error. So let's now see if you want to create an account. So we can just say user1@example.com and password. Okay, let's log in. So let's inspect. You can inspect that. See here. Yeah, I think this is better. So let's inspect. You can inspect. Look at the console, and it says not found. So the network. Let's log in. Cannot post. Yeah, yeah. So it's actually right. Let's see here. We need to post to /users. I forgot. Let's see. So it's posting now to the user. Let's look at the response. What do we have? So bat request. it says DB already exists with different case, because I have already created one, so I'll just change the DB name. So let's say my YT MERN blog is complaining about it. Okay, but it shouldn't be an issue now. Let's see. So can read properties toString of undefined. So toString we called it. Where did we call it? I think we called it in our user model. toString. So where we are assigning it, generate auth token. Okay, let's see. So console log user. Let's try again. toString. Say user routes and we post to the users. So let's see here if it creates the user first. Console log user. Okay, doesn't seem to create a user for us. So its email already exists, so it creates the user, but yeah, there is an issue with toString. Let's try with 1.2. It's creating the user, right? But there is an issue when it tries to generate the token. Okay, let's see why. We need to debug that. User route, so email, password, tokens. It's here, user model. See what's going on. Yeah, there is an issue, guys. But we'll solve it. Signup.js line 14. Let's see the issue. So jwt.sign user ID. This toString network. See. So it means that the user ID is undefined. Yeah. Let's look at console log. User is, and we say user. And we try new user. We have right. You see here it's an empty. It's an empty object. Okay, generate a token. So it's not actually seeing this user. User. Oh, I see. Okay, my bad. So actually, it should be a function, not just an arrow function, because arrow functions, they don't see the this keyword. Okay, this is a yeah, something that you should not forget. Bugs like this can happen if you just let's say instead of putting a arrow function, you put instead of putting a function expression, okay, you put an arrow function. So it doesn't see the this keyword. That's why. So let's put here. Make sure that we have functions and we don't use arrow functions anymore. Okay, and we say async. Right, so now it should be fine. But at least we should have a different error. So let's see, await user.js 958. So let's see, async. Okay, so we have an async. I don't understand what's going on here. Actually, async here. Say user 45@email.com. Password. All right, we don't have an error. So let's see here the response. So user. Okay, let's see. So you have this. This is the right. So this is the token. Okay, so it means it's working. And but we need to send back the user response. So let's see. Oh yeah. So here we should send not just this. We should JSON the user. So make sure that you have this JSON. And now, if you have user 40 login, right? So now we got the email, okay, the password, the tokens. The tokens is not correct. Let's make it correct. Generate auth token. Let's see, user model. So generate auth token. User tokens. Concat token. Actually, we should say here user tokens. Like this. Concatenate the token. And let's say 41 now. We should have the tokens now. So you have articles, which is empty, the email, the password, right? In the tokens here you have the first token, which what we are expecting. Now let's try to log in with the user. So we say user 41 at example.com and the password. So we just say password. And of course we need to have the login. So here as well we'll say Axios. So import Axios. And we say here Axios that post. So HTTP again, localhost 5000. So users login, and we need to send a payload. So it's going to be email and password. And we have the .zen. We'll just grab the data using the structuring console log data, and that catch, right? So is the error. You can say console log error. You can just say that message. So this, make sure that you wrap it in parentheses like this. Okay, let's now look at, it says password is not defined. Again, where do you have the password? So we have a typo here. Okay, so let's log in. Did we prevent the default? We didn't prevent the default, so we need to say e.prevent default. And now we can say user 41 at example.com and password. Okay, again we have an error. Let's look at the error. Network, invalid email or password. So probably this. Let's create a new one. So user at example.com with a very easy password. So password, create account, right? So we have this user. I'm just going to take it, login. Alright, so now let's see. So we have the user again, so it means it's logged in and the tokens are there, right? We haven't defined a logout endpoint, but you see here you have the email, the password, okay, for the login, which means the login is working for us. So we don't, however, we don't want to expose the tokens when we send back to user. We don't want to expose the password as well, okay? So we can hide it here by going to our user and say here user schema that methods, right, that to JSON. This runs automatically when we want to send back a JSON response. So we grab it by saying const user equals this, and we say const user object, okay, equals user that to object, just to make it an object now. And we are going to delete some properties. So delete user object, delete the password. The same, delete user object, we delete the tokens, okay, and we return the user object. So that way we are going to hide sensitive data. So let's log in again, and we see that now we are just receiving the email, the ID and the articles. We can even hide the articles because we don't need them. So let me remove this, delete user object dot articles like this, okay. All right, so that's how we need to do it. Now when you are going to, let's say, create a new article or log out or delete any article, we need to make sure that it's your article, right, and that you have the rights to delete any article that you are logged in. So for that, we create a middleware here. So let's create a new folder and say middleware, and I'm going to have an auth.js file, and this auth.js is a way, okay, to make sure that the user is who he's supposed to be. So we need to have JWT require JSON web token. Everything will revolve around the token, okay. So we need to require the user. So models, and say user, and we have const auth user now, which is a function. So async, it takes a request, a response, and the next, okay. And now we need to try something. So try catch. Alright, and say we try to grab the token coming from the request header. Okay, say authorization. You won't need it at this point, but I'll explain you like where you will need it. Replace, so bearer token with just now. Okay, and we'll decode now this token. Every time that you want to send, let's say every time that you want to make a delete, like delete an article or create an article, you need to send a token so that the database can know that you are the right user. Okay, so and you send it via your header. So we'll do it from the front end. So decode it. We'll decode this token by saying gwt.verify the token. Okay, and we need to have the app secret. So this is the key, right? We signed the user with here, right? So we need to decode it with that same key to make sure that we will have the same ID. Okay, so we say const now user. If you can find a user, await user that find one, and we find one. Okay, which has an ID that should be now the decoded token, that underscore ID. So if it finds the user, it means like the user has logged in. Okay, so if there is no user now, however, we want to throw a new error by saying you need to authenticate. Okay, to do anything like creating a new article. So please authenticate. Okay, so request that token else, right? So we send now. We are going to append the token, okay, to the request object, and we'll append now request that user again to our user, and we go to the next middleware. So next and catch. So we grab the error and we say res that status, so 401, which means like you are not allowed to do something. Okay, so not authorized to do something, and we'll send error. It says please authenticate. Actually this can be just no, you can say e.message, right? e.message. So, and we can just export now. Module that exports equals auth user. So that's how we do it. All right, so yeah, for this part we can stop there, and in the next video we'll now deal with creating a user and installing setting up our store. Okay, the Redux store, everything about Redux toolkit. So it's going to be in the next part.